We could talk about this all afternoon, but for now, we're out of time. Dan Glazebrook, thank you for being on the programme.
Thank you very much.
Well, meantime, while we're talking of migration, it's a sensitive issue in the UK as well, particularly today. New data on the number of migrants in Britain has triggered some shock there. Seems the latest statistics reveal that 8 million people living in the United Kingdom are foreign-born, and not everyone sees that as a good thing.
How the authorities can plan the future of Britain's public services with population growth on this scale is never explained, until the Prime Minister faces up to the reality that the free movement of people within the EU is a major cause of discontent. The government can never come up with sensible solutions.
We're covering more of this in London now. Here's RT's Anastasia Chakada.
Really a nightmare and pain in the neck for the British government as these staggering numbers are revealed that the number of people who were born overseas living now in Britain is over 8 million people, topping that number. Certainly this is something that is seen as a staggering number because that's 1 in 8 people living in the UK. And separately, another slap in the face, another set of numbers that reveals that the net migration number that has been talked so much about here in the UK has also reached a record high of over 330,000 people. And of course, this is something that's been talked here about time and time again because we've seen David Cameron namely promising over and over again that these numbers would be slashed to the tens of thousands. And of course, that's not been the case. Take a listen.
Immigration will be at levels our country can manage. No ifs, no buts. That will mean net migration to this country will be in the order of tens of thousands each year, not the hundreds of thousands every year that we've seen over the last decade.
Before the last election, the Prime Minister made a no ifs, no buts promise on immigration. It was in his contract with the British people. Net migration cut to the tens of thousands.
Now, also importantly, what this does is puts a strain between Britain and the EU, which has been deepening lately with finger-pointing and a blame game continuing when it comes to this issue of migration within the EU.
These stark figures are deeply disappointing. They should act as a further wake-up call for the EU. Current flows of people across Europe are on a scale we haven't seen since the end of the Second World War.
The issue of migration and immigration into the UK is taken very seriously. The level of concern is at its highest that it's been ever. But we do have to make the distinction, of course, between illegal immigrants, legal immigrants, and it has to be said that as we speak, there seems to be a major disconnect between this huge concern from the public and politicians and the measures that are being implemented and their ability to tackle this issue, and of course, at the same time, putting a bigger and bigger strain in the relationship between Britain and the EU.
Gun violence is back in the spotlight in the US after the on-air killing of 2 journalists. The incidents prompted President Barack Obama again to highlight the issue of firearms control.
The number of people who die from gun-related incidents around this country dwarfs any deaths that happen through terrorism.
And the White House has also urged Congress to tackle gun crime. The reaction comes after that reporter and a cameraman were shot dead by their former colleague. Here's a clip, in fact, from the attacker's online video resume.
Some law enforcement officers have concerns.
The man holding a weapon in a gun shop there was known by his TV name, Bryce Williams. On the day of the attack, he posted another video too. That one showing the atrocity he just committed just an hour or 2 earlier. Williams later turned the gun on himself. He died in hospital. Well, shortly after the shooting, ABC News was faxed a 23-page manifesto apparently sent by the killer. The sender claims to have been inspired by previous mass shootings, including the Charleston Church massacre and the deadly rampage at Virginia Tech University in 2007. Here's a reminder of those tragedies.
Take their lives just like Jesus Christ. Yes, that's right.
Despite the high-level push, the country's gun control laws remain largely unchanged still. RT's Miniport Naya takes a closer look then at why.
The fatal shooting of 2 journalists on live television has once again turned the public's attention to gun violence in America. More than 340 million firearms are estimated to be circulating throughout the United States, millions of them purchased and carried without restriction. In Virginia, where a TV news crew was gunned down, buyers don't have to undergo background checks when buying guns at gun shows, meaning criminals or mentally unstable people can easily access a firearm without restriction. Like many other states, Virginia allows owners to carry their weapons openly in public. Leah Barrett, the executive director of New Yorkers Against Gun Violence, says with guns being so easily available, it's no surprise that fatal shootings and preventable tragedies continue increasing day by day.
In states like Virginia and Alaska and Texas and Florida and most of the states that don't have strong, smart gun laws, you see higher rates of gun death and injury. So what we need to do to fix the problem. We just need to find the politicians with enough courage at the federal level to do so.
In response to Wednesday's deadly shooting of 2 journalists, Virginia's governor has called for tighter gun laws, insisting there are too many guns in the hands of people who shouldn't have them. U.S. President Barack Obama has repeatedly tried to pass federal gun control legislation.
As a nation, we have endured far too many of these tragedies in the last few years.
We have to have a conversation about it and fix this.
The only way that we're going to be able to do everything that needs to be done is with the cooperation of Congress.
Once again, innocent people were killed in part because someone who wanted to inflict harm had no trouble getting their hands on a gun.
He says the biggest frustration of his presidency is that most members of Congress will not support him, no matter how many lives are lost in shooting massacres. But unless public opinion shifts and grows more politically powerful than the National Rifle Association or firearms manufacturers, U.S. lawmakers are unlikely to move forward on any type of gun control legislation. Reporting from New York, Marina Portnaya, RT.
So far this year, gun violence has left more than 8,000 people dead in the US and more than double that wounded. A monitoring group says almost 250 mass shooting incidents took place in the US so far in 2015, where people were either killed or injured. The experts we've talked to say there's a number of factors contributing to the increased violence.
Congress has given absolute immunity to only one industry, the firearm industry. You cannot sue them even if they blatantly market directly to criminals. And the gun industry makes money after every mass shooting. And after this shooting, gun sales will go up again. Congress will do nothing.
This is a society dripping with fear, dripping with violence, and people walk around really, really upset and afraid of each other, and there's a lot of insecurity. Now, of course, there's going to be a debate about gun control following this, but the issue is obviously something deeper than that, because there are many countries around the world where people are heavily armed, but they don't feel a need to kill each other, and there aren't these kind of mass shootings that we see routinely happening here in the United States.
We've got more reaction for you to the Virginia incident from the public, from politicians. If you want to check it out, it's on our site. Coming up, the Italian mafia is back in the spotlight again. We'll explain why after this quick break.
American lives don't matter. That's the hashtag for today. American lives don't matter. BP, a foreign entity, came in, committed eco-holocaust, and they get a slap on the wrist from a U.S. Attorney General, Loretta Lynch. Sounds like Loretta Lynn. Sounds like a bad country song. We got an Attorney General, sold out the country, made people die. Warren Buffett doesn't care if we all cry.